right, you're watching Morning Express and KTN and Mock the Week. Well, so we now have quail vodka.
All right.
And quail field.
From the quail delicacies to a quail discussion, hopefully.
Right. Come on.
Karibu sana, Senator.
Thank you very much, James.
And the Ambrose Weda.
Thank you, James. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
And allow me to introduce Joy Doreen Bira.
Bira.
All
It's
right.
a double I, so it's Bira.
Or Bira.
Yeah.
You know.
Actually, where I'm from, it's pronounced as Vira. You don't say B, but because, you know, we're in the English world, so you just have to say Bira.
Okay.
Take it that.
All right, someone actually yesterday did send me a verse, Isaiah chapter 7, verse 7, and it says, "Thus saith the Lord, it shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass." And today is the 7th of July. In other words, it's 7-7, and
it shall not come to pass.
people... It shall not come to pass.
It will come to pass.
I was trying to connect with this conversation.
Yesterday, I saw the funniest of jokes about Kambas saying no more to 7 after Masaku 7.
Oh, no. We stopped this. Yeah. How's your week been?
I've been very great, although a lot of threats from the cod wing of the country, but it's been a great week trying to build the country, move on. Yes.
Senator.
I think it's been a great Ramadan. Week 1 is already down. Started last Sunday. Today is Monday, so I think it must be day 8 or 9. And we're cruising down. I think it's been a fantastic week. I've spent most of it in Mombasa. Ramadan, there's a joke that during Ramadan, even Mombasa is the state county fasts. Because you find the mood, it becomes a bit, reversed. The evenings become daylight and everybody's up until 3, 4 a.m. In fact, that's where our concern was about the fact that it has been a rich historical practice, that Ramadan, and with all these swoops and some unforetold security operations, we thought that culture would have been ruined fundamentally, but it's been preserved, I think, by the commitment of the people.
Absolutely. Let's start off with this, just the issues in in Lamu and Tana River.
Yeah.
22 killed, 21, 20, depending on who you ask.
I watched, it puzzles me. The last time I heard one of your journalists, in fact from KTN, did say that he did say some bodies about 2 weeks ago. And the killings were execution style. It was not something random. I saw on Robert Alai's Facebook page some posts of pictures.
Right.
Again, I saw execution style of killings. So you look at the gravity, the audacity, the sheer fear. Yeah, chilling, very, very chilling. And I think we must end the rhetoric. Every time talking tough, talking firm doesn't help. And that's why people need to sit down and determine. Security, I keep saying this in the Senate, is no longer a brutal art. It's a science. People do volumes and volumes of research to be able to refine and define the security machinery.
So it's the same story that we are hearing. They're saying it's political networks, and then they're having links to MRC, and on the other side you're seeing Al-Shabaab claiming responsibility for all these attacks. So what do you make out of this?
You see, once your government accepts it's Al-Shabaab, the way I heard on the international media that Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility, it takes a new slant. It's international terrorism. The country has tried very much to repair that image about it being vulnerable to international terrorism, because then it severes a lot of our tourism and local and economic sector. So I think there's also a way in which you need to regulate the propaganda, so that once you appear to localize it as domestic crime, then you're able to deal with it as any other shooting in South African suburbs or in Johannesburg. So it's insecurity generally. So I think I personally look at the intensity of this violence. I just do believe that these kinds of styles are very reminiscent of what Boko Haram does, what the new wave of Islamists that are coming up, particularly in the Middle East, the Islamic State And if you look at the execution style of killings, they almost bear some glaring similarities. And I think why I say it's a science, you need to constantly be evaluating global trends, how terrorism is evolving, what strategies are being applied, what new movements are coming up, what ideologies are being subscribed to. That's why I say it's a science. If people go into research departments, it's not a question of some weak need, Kiganjo, 6 months training. People will tell you, it's just escapism. I think we need thorough interrogation of what's happening.
But let's bring into this. Is it worrying that we don't have a coherent understanding and message from the people we charge the responsibility of taking care of us, of what this thing is all about?
I think on the morning of Mpeketoni attack, I was in the studio, and that time it was believed it was supposed to be Al-Shabaab. And I remember saying that the manner in which it was executed, it looked very planned, highly professional. Later on in the course of the week, it emerged, allegations came out, it was a COD or it was what, and name all these people. And I remember saying, look, anybody against Kenya can plan any attack. But we have security apparatus. They should apprehend these people before. We have not employed anybody to apportion blame on our behalf. The role of the police, the NSIS, is not to apportion blame. It is to apprehend these people. Unfortunately, truth be said, it is only in Kenya where you find police officers with the tummies that are sagging several kilos. They can't run from here to there without falling down on heat exhaustion or just being... When you look at, I'm sorry to say, the behind of the security officers, you can see it is too heavy, they can't run. Running alone, running from here to there. Basically, we have lost the script.
So does that have anything to do with the fact that, for instance, in these recent attacks, the shootings started at about 11:30, and it wasn't until 1 a.m. in the morning that the police did show up?
Let me tell you, when you are basically overweight, you spend more of your time sleeping, and things become very difficult. Now, if you are charged with the responsibility of staying awake the whole night and running to a war zone, you look at I don't want to be unfair to the smaller guys. Start with the head of the military. Look at his tummy. He himself cannot run. I was in Rwanda last week. Nearly everybody from Paul Kagame going down, they can do 400 meters. They can run.
Quite successfully.
Our president can run, our president can run.
Body structure.
You know
what I'm saying?
That is hate speech, Weda. That is hate speech.
It's not hate speech. What I'm trying to say is this. The problem is not without.
It's within.
The problem is within. We must just ask ourselves. We must have what is called introspection. When these people attack us, where are we? What did we not do that they attack today? You know, I felt very sad that even on the morning of Mpeketoni attack, the next day, they still attacked. It is painful. It means that even if my home is surrounded by the GSU, I'm still vulnerable. That is not the problem with the attackers. That is a problem with we must have self-introspection.
You don't think that there is something wrong with the intelligence?
I think...
that is the introspection I'm talking about. That is why I'm saying, let us look at our securities. That's where the problem is.
All right.
And the fish, we always say, I come from a fishing community. The fish starts rotting from the head. Well, it doesn't start from the tail. And that is why I said, even if you look at the appearance, what is outside can tell you what is inside. When you see the people who are supposed to run after these guys with tummies sagging down, there's a problem.
I think I would want to get to that point. I think, for me, I think it's more about the intellectual up here, about the fact that you have to realize security has evolved, and mean strategies in security have evolved fundamentally from the 60s. Because Kenya's blueprint on security never appears to evolve. what people do during Mzee Kenyatta's period is what they're doing in Kijana Kenyatta period. So I think that's the way, that's unfortunately where I think the lapse is. Because if you look at our security machinery, it's not necessarily that has been well capacitated or resourced or equipped, but we didn't have these levels of insecurity over the last, you know, during Moi's time or during Kibaki's time. They were mitigated. I think it's when you fail in strategies and you alienate sectors that are supposed to help you in proactive security or proactive policing, the community itself. You vilify the community, the Somali community, the marginalized communities. And therefore, there is also a direct correlationship between underdevelopment and security. So the more underdeveloped you are, there is a likelihood that you're more insecure. And these are empirical areas. I don't think it has much about the tummy. They can feel their tummies, work out in the gym, but let them feel their brains. That's where, when they're empty, or they sag out without necessarily the right ideas. That's where you go haywire. So I think what has happened is, when you patronize security, make it a cocoon thing, make it a regional thing, you want to personalize it, you personalize the state, you ethnicize the state power. I think that the net effect, because if I look at the young soldiers, they look quite trimmed. The emergency response is what scares me most, which Weda alluded to. You know, what is the emergency response to my place in the event of distress? Yeah, so, you know, every politician lately talks about applying for a firearm license. That, for me, that's a scary piece of information, you know. Everybody's asking me, do you own one? Do you have one? I mean, and therefore, these days when you travel as politicians, literally it's like an armed, convoy, because your friends, your colleagues, or your bodyguards, because of the levels of insecurity. The president now has what do you call it? Armored vehicles. And he has changed his platform, so that you remove yourself from the view of assassins and probably bulletproof. But Kibaki will do something. You know, I think it was plastic or whatever it was, because I think Moi did it, and I think Kenyatta did it. I didn't say Kenyatta's either. But just what I'm saying is, when you see this kinds of tempo in fortification, it means there's something amiss. It means that the security threat is higher. It means, therefore, the security threat across the country is far higher. The area that you just featured about, Kibokoni, that's where I was born. That's where I was brought up. Those faces, you saw me smiling, those are faces I know. That was the most tranquil, the most peaceful area you could ever imagine. Even when, in fact, sometimes people say you might not think you're in the larger Kenya because of the nature. Yeah, you know, for a tourist to be shot, just like that, and tourists are the people who bring the earnings to that locality. I think there's a way in which we need to strengthen our strategies.
When do we finally have a discussion and agree that we have people who have failed us in internal security, people who failed us in giving us enough intelligence and advising the president? When do we finally have this discussion? Because we appear to always be making, say, you know what, it is someone else, but not the people who are in charge.
I think in this one, I would not politicize it the way the senator wants. The senator would target the president. The president's only been there 1 year, and it takes time to take over a system, especially those turn-wielding security chiefs who seem to have lost it. Okay? Coming down from the Inspector General, coming down, they seem to have lost the script. So what do? They manufacture reports. Then they say, oh, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. Something is wrong and responsibility has to be taken.
So when I see people... Who has to fix it, Weda?
You see, because it's security, it has to start from the head of state. But he also has to balance. You can see that he's talking about the armored vehicle. Obama has bigger ones because of the threats of terrorism. Times have changed.
Would you agree with me that the threats are going higher? Times
have changed. Things are bad. But the smaller things like MRC or we shouldn't have gone there. Somebody somewhere from the Inspector General coming down. And all that means Olelengu, my dear brothers, should also take responsibility. If people decide to quit just because a team has lost in Brazil, here, some people, I don't know whether we'll have to lose the whole of Coast Region or Western for them to say, look, I'm either a neighbor or I'm unwilling, or sometimes they should also make it easy for the president. They should make it easy that, Your Excellency, I was supposed to do this, but it appears I'm not doing it well. Let me go home. Here, I think we need to take
well, just let me just pick one issue which Weda talked about, that the president has been there for 1 year and tried to redeem him on his responsibility with national security. In fact, many pundits believe it was at the point of the wastegate when the country said enough is enough, we need security, that the president will have used that as an opportunity to shake up and show that he's the CNC. Every president, every leader who's worth his salt uses an opportunity that presents itself to shake up his administration. And the first opportunity is that you bear necessarily no obligation to absorb it as the way it is. So therefore, it's very easy for a commander-in-chief to call heads of security agencies and say, please, I want to start afresh, I need your resignations. And that happens everywhere in the world.
Right.
That said and done, then there was another opportunity where Kenyans now believed this is the time when the president needs to show that he's commander-in-chief. So one opportunity after another, and as he himself acknowledges today, then you start concocting reports that falsify the situation and intimidate an entire nation, and then be able to legitimize your continued stay in existence. I think it's just wrong. Maybe we need some fresh perspective. Maybe somebody needs to exit.
Fresh perspective, you might say. But as a leader of the Coastal region, or in the Coastal region, there are, so many conspiracies that are going on about these attacks, and there's so many beliefs going on. And of course, you cannot leave out the fact that during the last attacks, there was a heated debate in the House, the National Assembly, about linking it to ethnic cleansing. And this actually was a debate that even got some members of parliament kicked out of their houses, that is in the Senate and the National Assembly, respectively. So what links can we have to these attacks in regard to ethnicity?
Okay. Let me first of all clarify. We have a new constitution, which was drawn based more on our fears than on our future. And for that reason, we provided for security of tenure to nearly everybody, every corner. So that, take the Inspector General, for instance, the president can't just remove him. He can't just even ask. He's supposed to be independent. That's what the Constitution says, independent. Even if you kill 1,000, it says independent. That's problem number one. Go to these other security agents. In fact, if you look at the Constitution, the president has very little say. He has to beg these people. Now, this would be, as a senator, you must understand this so that we understand the problems. If you look at the cost, it took the view of ethnic cleansing, people claiming about land and linking President Uhuru and the Kikuyus. I saw Honorable Wetangula. I had him in Kisii, the last rally in Kisii. He said, kabila wengine wote wako pamoja, lakini ni kabila moja tu ndio inababaika. He was technically saying all the tribes of Kenya are united except the Kikuyu people. That is technically what he was saying. Now, these are the things that some people who have a problem with the president think that the president and the Kikuyu people are one and the same thing. Some people also who have issues about land at the coast, and therefore they think some Kikuyus who and there needs to be beaten to get out. So we mix the security issues, the Al-Shabaab issues, the local security inefficiencies, and then we add in the tribal angle. Now the tribal angle requires everybody, whether it is CORD or the senator here, to appreciate that we need each other as a country. We do not need to cleanse the Kikuyus from coast or from Rift Valley. Neither do we need, for any mistake that the president may have done, to visit it on the Kikuyu people. Just like if Raila does any mistake, you don't visit it on the Luos, because he does it as an individual. So there are three mixes now: land, ethnic, okay, and the general security lapses from our own administration. Therefore, making it very murky. It is tough. But we need leaders to be a bit sober. Things are so tough today. because of terrorism and so on. Now they have called a rally on a Monday. They are threatening the whole country. They are making it even more difficult. Just imagine today if Al-Shabaab went there and threw a grenade. We are finished.
But Ambrose,
yes.
we must make a distinction between civil liberties that people must and can continue to protest, to picket, as provided the Constitution, and people going about their business.
Yes.
It is not a criminal to have a political rally, is it? Is that a criminal offense?
It is not a criminal offense.
Thank you very much.
No,
Ambrose.
But you can use it for sabotage. Okay. Then it is bad.
You know, I think Ambrose and I read different constitutions. But this problem about me and Ambrose is that during the constitutional making process, we literally internalized it in every quote, both in letter and spirit, every provision. The same constitutions that gives a certain level of independence to the Inspector General and the head of the NSIS, but also sets grounds for removal. These grounds have been met several times. And the president, all he needs is to remove them through a validation of the National Assembly. And that's it. You know, which National Assembly will not have validated the removal of Kimayo after Westgate or the removal of Gishangi after Westgate? So I think the opportunities that present themselves, they're not cast in stone. There's no security of tenure that is absolute. It's only God's tenure that's absolute. So that's said and done. I think the ethnic dimension, particularly to the Mpeketoni, was a bit unfortunate. And I personally want to believe that statements from political leaders of that caliber, the presidency, must be those that galvanize people against a common enemy and the common threat. You see, when I'm president, when we are faced with security threats, and I saw that with your President Museveni, he galvanized the country. It was almost difficult to beat Museveni at that time. Because right now our common threat is radicalization, terrorism, you know, the common enemies that will have galvanized the country. And therefore, what happens is when you isolate a sector and try to then link it to that crime, particularly the CORD sector, what kind of message are you sending? And what we failed to realize is one religious leader on Saturday said a most accurate thing, that the president is a symbol of national unity. But you have to at some point raise beyond tribe, beyond region, beyond religion, beyond sexual interests, and be able to unite a country, to galvanize it. We are almost half and half. When Raila says he speaks for the people of Kenya, I think he is conscious that there is about a 50% country out there that supports the CORD coalition. And therefore, I think what we need is where governments win by such narrow majorities, 8,000 to avoid a runoff. It actually is, if you have to put it in quantifiable form, of 8,000 votes. What you do as a head of state is to try and see how to up your majority and to legitimize yourself in areas that you are to be illegitimate. The coast region right now, for instance, even if you see a bit of those forays by William Ruto, let them call a vote and you will see what the true colors of those people are. Because I can tell you for a fact, the region has felt isolated, marginalized, and now victimized doubly, more than ever before. And therefore, I think it is important sometimes to read the mood of a nation and be able to integrate. And that's why when the place for national dialogue is the fact that we need to narrow the differences. We need to negotiate some of the issues collectively. We have 47 counties, 24 of which under the CORD coalition. These counties are being underfunded. How do we then support devolution? There are many, many issues, issues of inclusivity, representation, issues of the declining standards of insecurity, or the insecurity generally. What are the interventions? Some of us had drawn blueprints in terms of how we were to attack the 4-5-point plan in terms of reining the imbalances, the inequalities, and the injustices in cost. And I think we need to integrate that.
So you talked about the fact that CORD has 50% of the support in the country, but then is it really a sentimental thing that CORD has not really accepted the results of the 2013 elections? Because what we're seeing at the moment is that there seems to be something going on that, look, up until today, we've never accepted that somebody else did win the elections, or the Uhuruto, in this case the Jubilee government, won the elections. Are we still going back and trying to say, look, actually we won the elections? These 8,900 votes that were exceeded on this other side, is it a question of we are not over the fact that we didn't win the elections?
No, I don't think there's any anybody who disrespects what the Supreme Court did rule. I don't know, for whatever purpose, I saw it on the social media, so I'm not able to validate it, that there was a Supreme Court justice who said that had probably we allowed the evidence by the court coalition, probably the outcome would have been different. That is neither here nor there, even if you were to pronounce it almost 1 year after the fact. But our concern has been, the institution, there's Katiba, na ukatiba. We have a constitution, but we have to promote the culture of constitutionalism. And we realize that the fractures that emerged after the elections are not healing in any particular way. You look at, from the very onset of the appointment of cabinet, it is totally skewed. You look at the amendments that were being brought to erode some of the governance elements in terms of policing, in terms of civil society, in terms of general accountability, the media. We looked at the changes that are coming to the National Land Commission. Then you look at the standard gauge railway, and then the president comes and says, I've done it, so what? Then you see the Anglo leasing, I've done it, so what? So I thought, we thought, now there must be a way in which people can exercise their sovereignty by putting a caveat, to the transgressions and the excesses that we see in the Constitution. And therefore, I think what we simply did is to reach out to the people and say that, listen, institutions might be there, but that some of these institutions are so decapacitated. A National Assembly under Duale cannot audit President Uhuru Kenyatta. It can only be through a popular will and popular drive.
All right. Let me clarify. I think there is something. The court team seems to be living in denial that it was 8,000 votes. Yes. It was almost 900,000. The 8,000 was supposed to be the 50% plus one. Plus one. So instead of getting one, the Jubilee got 8,000. But the range was 900,000 votes. Nearly the whole votes from Coast Region. So accept that. Secondly, what they are doing is you do not win elections, you live in denial. So what do? In the hope for the next election, you disrupt. You ensure there's no work going on. Disrupt here, disrupt there, disrupt here. And that's a script that is not new. In 2007, in 2005, after we had a referendum in 2005, then Honorable Raila's team were shoved out of Kibaki's government. For 2 years, they disrupted everything. And actually come 2007, Kibaki almost found himself out. That is the same script they are playing. But it is costly to the economy. Today alone, the country is going to lose over 2 billion because of the rally, the disruption, the problems, the issues, leave alone the noise, the scare that is there, added to Al-Shabaab and so on and so forth. So we are telling our brothers, if you really know that there's a mess, why can't you allow the Jubilee government to mess up themselves so that come 2017, August, 2nd Tuesday, it is also around one for you people. Unless you know that once the railway reaches Nairobi and the Galana irrigation scheme provides enough food and things improve, your chances of recapturing power will not be there. That is why Wandangula is saying, we can't wait for 5 years. So-and-so is saying, we can't do this. And yet when you look at them, from Uhuru Park, they're heading straight to the sauna. Some of them spend so much money, steam and sauna and making their hair. Then those people that they have delayed in the rallies the whole day, yesterday in Machakos, the other day in Kisumu, today in Nairobi, they are going to sleep hungry without any solution. Can't you allow the country, the Jubilee administration also to work, mess, and then you defeat them 2017? Why too much noise today that you cloud the ground too much?
Hassan, one of the reasons I'm looking speechless is how he can tell us to allow them to mess. You don't mess. Jubilee is not messing itself up. It's messing my country, which I live in, which I have stakes to nowhere else. I am a Kenyan by blood and by soil, by everything. And therefore, and my kids will remain Kenyan. And every generation of, we have been here for, historically, from what I read, 600-700 years. So my brother, there's nowhere we are going. And based on the fact that there's nowhere that we are going, the fact that there's nowhere we are going, the country cannot allow Jubilee to mess itself up, in the return to mess up the country. And therefore, I think they needs to put a caveat. Everybody needs to put a stop. And I think what happens is strategies might not be likable to you. Strategies for audit, even if you was to draw up a charter for accountability for you staff members here of the Standard Group, it will easily make Cholet unpopular with you. And I think accountability anywhere is not necessarily a cup of tea, particularly in African democracies. And I think Kenyan democracy, though, is unique in its manifestation. It is one of the democracies that has evolved over a period of time. And it has a constitutional charter that at least safeguards these issues in theory, but in practice you do realize that a lot of the transformation has not taken place. And there is no mindset that internalizes this constitution both in letter and spirit. It's just a cacophony of tribal warlords coming together to win an election. And I think that's those are some of the things that we need to deconstruct in this country so that we can reconstruct a new paradigm in terms of politics. But that said and done, I don't think if a strategy is not likable to you, it is not a strategy. Because even if you decide to hold a rally within the democratic space that is provided, that should not mean that the country is unable to function in its other arenas or formations of society. Mm-hmm. And that shows the weakness in which any government operates in. For you to be told, to tell me that a rally unsettles you or a series of rallies unsettles you is the most mundane. In fact, I wish you did this strategy on a CORD government, because CORD itself, I think its strength is in the people. I think you will never have been able to achieve the kind of public outcry or the reaction that you get. So I think a person needs to any institution. Right. If I was to demonstrate outside Standard Group and you feel threatened in terms of your existence, then Standard Group has a problem.